In all seriousness, open your Bibles to Ephesians 5. We'll study from there. Ephesians 5:15 to 16. I thought we were over this COVID junk. I prayed that we were. And I'd started visiting in homes and sick folks, and I'm going to hold off on that a while. No offense to anybody, but I don't want to bring you something. And so you're not going to see me at your front door just yet, just in case. But on October the 17th, we're still going to have Bring a Friend Day. We are still going to reach out. And we're going to have 100 that day. I didn't say we're going to try, I said we're going to. Don't tell me we're small and we can't do it. I don't want to hear that junk. Don't tell me it can't be done. I mean, if Jesus can start with 12 folks and go to 3,000 one day, we can do it. That same God still working in us, still doing things. Folks, it can and will be done. With God on our side, the throne of God in glory is our limit. All right, so let's work, pray, and do. I knew a sweet sister who would work and pray and do, but Jane Ann could not be to worship on time to save her life. She said that every day, every Lord's Day, she'd be walking out of the house and she'd see something that just had to be done. There was a dish in the sink and it had to be washed and put away or something. Every service, Jane Ann was at least 5 minutes late. Wonderful sister. She's gone to her reward now, but she was RJ's Bible class teacher, and I can't stand here and say enough good about Jane Ann. But you could not be on time. And because of that, and because there are a few others habitually late, the elders came to me and asked me to preach a sermon on being on time for worship. Now, Jimmy, I don't think that's the best way to handle that situation, but that's what those elders did. And after the service, Jane Ann came up to me cracking up hysterically. And so that was about me, wasn't it? The elders told me to preach that about you. You probably know some people who can't be on time to save their lives. I already hear the chuckling. Maybe it's the case that, you have this family gathering and you're waiting on the same person every single time. Maybe you're in the car ready to go somewhere and you're waiting and waiting and waiting. Maybe it's the case that you've got this coworker that's fashionably late every single morning. Maybe you go to the doctor's office and you get in the exam room, Jimmy, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait. Late every single time you go to see him or her. Maybe, just maybe, going to throw this out here, you're the one who is late and always holding up the family and always showing up work a little late. And I know not, but I'm just throwing that out as a possibility. We know in all seriousness and candor that time management is important. We're going to think about time management this morning. No. I'm not going to tell you how to get more things done. I wish I knew the secret. I wish that I could manage my time a little better. I get up at 4:45 every morning and go and swim a couple kilometers and come to work and go home and bike 15 miles and try to spend some time with Tammy, but then it's time for bed and my day's over. I can't fit everything I need to do into a day. And I'm sure you're the same way, but that's not what we're going to think about this morning. We're going to think from Ephesians 5 and what Paul writes there about time management. The apostle has an important lesson for you about time management. And that lesson is simply this. Here's what you need to learn. What you need to walk away with this morning. You must use your time wisely because time is short. You must use your time wisely because time is short. In Ephesians 5, Paul tells us that we must use our time wisely because time is short. Randy read this well for us, but let's open Scripture and look again. Paul says, look carefully then how you walk. Pay attention. Don't just walk haphazardly or any old way, but look carefully. And notice what he says. Look carefully then how you walk. The then obviously refers to the previous paragraph. Paul there had talked about sin and people living in sin that's not fit to be mentioned. And Paul said because people live that way, you do differently. You look carefully how you walk, how you live. Walk there is a present active indicative in the Greek, and that's a fancy way of saying it refers to continual action. Paul says, look carefully how you are always walking. As long as we are in this flesh, as long as we are alive, as long as we are walking, we have an obligation to do so carefully, consciously, not as unwise, but as wise. Some people are not wise stewards of time. In many ways, I don't care if you are or you aren't. That's not important. But Paul says that as we walk carefully, we need to do so not as unwise, but as wise. Jesus told the disciples to be wise. Matthew 10:16. Behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Paul also said we need to be wise. He told the Roman church, Romans 16:19, for your obedience is known to all, so that I rejoice over you, but I want you to be wise as to what is good and innocent as to what is evil. Paul here says in our walk, as we do it goodly, as we do it rightfully, we do it wisely. And we are to be wise as to what is good. And he says, making the best use of the time. There it is. Making the best use of the time. Some translations put here redeeming the time. Literally in the Greek, it is buy up at the marketplace. Meaning buy up the time. Get it. Buy it. A merchant standing there selling time and you go up and say, I want some. I'm going to spend some money on time. Buy it up. Two possible ways of understanding that. One Paul may mean seize the opportunity. You know, you don't always have the opportunity to do right. You know, I mentioned visiting a minute ago. Under normal circumstances, you don't always have the opportunity to visit. Sometimes people get well, sometimes they die. Either way, you've squandered the opportunity to serve. Some people are going to be receptive to the gospel today, but not receptive tomorrow. You squander an opportunity if you don't strike when the iron is hot. People may have a need today and not tomorrow. You've squandered an opportunity. Paul says, seize the time, take it, use it wisely. The other idea is to buy back or to redeem. The idea of putting aside your self-interest to use time wisely, to buy it back, to take it back from yourself and give it to God, to redeem it. Because the days are evil. This too has two possible meanings. One, Paul may mean that life is brief. Days are evil, days are short, days are filled with sorrow and everything else. Therefore, life is brief. Evil brings death. It brings your death and my death. Therefore, it may mean brevity of life. You do not know what tomorrow will bring. Folks, you don't know what today will bring. What is your life? For you're a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. You're here today, you're gone tomorrow. Life is brief, so redeem the time. Time is short. Use your time wisely. 2, it might mean diligent use of opportunities. Whenever the opportunity presents itself, you serve, you do, you honor God. Whenever, wherever you can, as you have the time. However we understand seizing the time because the days are evil, the meaning is very, very clear. Paul said, you must use your time wisely because time is short. So how do you do it? How can you use your time wisely? Because time is short. Number 1, you need to look carefully how you walk for the best use of your time. That's what Paul said here, is it not? Look carefully then how you walk. If you want to know the best way to use your time, you have to stop and ask yourself, how am I using my time? Am I more interested in my own pleasure and my own pursuits than I am the things of God? Do I give more time to what I want to do than what God needs me to do? Am I more interested in catching up on the latest TV show or spending time in the Word and praying? Am I more interested in, you fill in the blank, or serving God? You need to ask yourself those questions. How are you walking? How are you using your time? Look carefully then how you walk. Is the way you use your time honoring the God of heaven? And 2, you need to pray for wisdom as you manage your time. As you seek to use your time in the best way possible, you need to pray for wisdom. Notice what Paul said here. Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise. If you want wisdom, you need to ask God for it. You need to pray for it. God answers every single prayer. Every one. Jesus said, Luke 11, 9 and 10, I tell you, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks it will be opened. You know also that God promised to answer every prayer for wisdom. All right? If you need wisdom, you need to ask God for it, because He will give it to you. James 1:5. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. Not it might be, not God hopes it will be, but it will be given to him. If you need to know how to use your time wisely to honor the God of heaven, because your days are short, you need to ask God for that wisdom. And He will bless you with it every time. 3, you need to set your priorities for the best use of your time. You need to set your priorities for the best use of your time. Really and honestly, folks, that's what we're talking about this morning. It all boils down to what's important to you. Making the best use of the time, for the days are evil. What does all that have to do with you? Me. It means what's important to me. What's important to me is where I'm going to spend my time. Is it important to me to serve the God of heaven or not? Is it important to me to walk with God or not? That's the question. You know, look, there is nothing wrong with catching up on that latest TV show. I'm going through Hulu right now and watching Unsolved Mysteries from the 1990s. I still like that show. I wonder if they ever found out some of those things they're talking about from the 90s. I'm not catching up on the latest TV show, but I like to watch TV. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with spending time with family or with friends or going out. There's nothing wrong with those things. And I don't want you to hear me say they are. Because Scripture says those things are okay. Ecclesiastes 3:1. For everything there is a season, and a time for everything under heaven. You know the context. There's a time to be born, a time to die, a time to scatter, time to refrain from scattering, time to drink and time to refrain from drinking, time to dance, time not to dance. Some of those pursuits of life that we just enjoy doing. Solomon was inspired to say there's a time for everything. But it comes down to what's important. What is important to me? Where do I put my priorities? Because they matter. People of God haven't always used the best time management. They haven't always used their best wisdom. When the Jews came back from Babylonian captivity, they were not good stewards of their time. They spent all their time building these beautiful houses for them to live in and leaving God's temple neglected. Their priorities were turned upside down. Instead of taking care of the things of God, they were taking care of themselves and making sure their houses were nice and in order. That wasn't the right use of the time. They were not redeeming the time. And God told them as such through the prophet Haggai, "My house lies in ruins, while each of you busies himself with his own house." Go read the book of Haggai. It's only 2 chapters. Go read it this afternoon. Because the point of Haggai is your priorities are screwed up. You are more concerned about you and your house and everything that you desire, and not this temple up here that lies in ruins you need to go up and rebuild and take care of. But fortunately, when God spoke through the prophet Haggai, we read at 1:2, the people obeyed the voice of the Lord their God, 1:12, and they got busy rebuilding the temple. They heard the word of the Lord and they obeyed it. They heard their priorities were out of sync, and they went about syncing them and getting them right with their Creator. You know God needs to be your highest priority. You need to fit everything else in your schedule around serving God, not put serving God somewhere in your schedule. That's really the point of what I'm trying to say this morning. God's the priority. You don't give Him what's left over in your time. You put Him first. You make Him your everything. And then you fit everything else around the truth of Him and walking with Him. Ecclesiastes 12:13. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. The word duty is not in Hebrew. Translators have put it there because it makes a little bit more sense, they say. The Hebrew is, fear God, keep His commandments, for this is the whole of man. This is the whole of man. Fearing God, keeping His commandments, why you were put on this earth. It's why you breathe air. Why you eat food for fuel. It's why you're alive and get up of a morning. It's to fear God and keep His commandments. That is the whole of man. That's it. That's just not it in a nutshell. That is it. Your priority must be fear God, keep His commandments. But you know, Jesus also spoke about priorities. Luke 14:26 and 27. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother, wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. In other words, Jesus said, I have to be it. I have to be your life. I have to be everything you are about. The air you breathe, the life you have, and everything else. When you put God at the center of your life, you don't have to talk about redeeming the time. Because everything you do, everything you are, you think, is going to be centered around Him and the truth of His Word. Fear God. Keep His commandments. What is your priority this morning? What is it that takes up the bulk of your time? What is it that's taking you away from Jesus? What in your life is more important than serving the God? What's your priority? That's where you spend your time. Because that's what's important to you. And 4, you need to understand why you need the best use of your time. You need to understand why you need the best use of your time. Paul tells us right there in the text. Days are evil. Because there is evil in this world, because that evil is going to take you out of this world one day. Sin came into the world, and thus death through sin. That death, that sin will get you one day, one way or the other. You know why you really need to be using your time wisely? You know why you need to be a good steward of your time? Because you might be dead this afternoon. Yeah, that's blunt. I admit that. It's probably not something you want to hear me stand up here and say. You may be dead by dinner time. But you and I know it's the truth. Sometimes we need to be reminded that we may be dead before this afternoon is over. You may not make it 6 o'clock news, folks. You may be dead as a doornail by then. Life is that brief. It's a vapor. Here's for a little time and vanishes away. And in that context, James, the Lord's brother, said, whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. I get so frustrated when I hear this verse used to talk about sins of omission. I'm not going to deny it's there, but that's not what James was talking about, folks. Look at the paragraph it's in. Your life is a vapor. Appears for a little while, vanishes away. Come now, you who say today, we'll go in such a city, tomorrow we'll buy and sell, and you don't know what your life is. You're a vapor, appear a little time, vanish away. Therefore, because your life is a vapor that appears and then vanishes, whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, to him it is sin. James said in the context, your life is short. You may be dead this afternoon, therefore get busy doing the right thing. That's what he said. Therefore, because of the brevity of life, whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, to him it is sin. Get busy, in other words, because you're not going to be here forever. Don't leave things undone. People talk about bucket lists all the time. Went to Niagara Falls several years ago with my in-laws because that was part of his bucket list. Oh, that's fine, dandy, happy. I was tickled to death that he got to see that. Really was. But you know what's a far more important bucket list? What am I going to do for God? When they lower me in the ground, have I left everything on the battlefield? Have I worked for God till I can't do anymore? Was there good I left undone? Was there someone with whom I did not share the gospel? Was there someone suffering whom I did not comfort? Was there someone who was joyful with whom I did not rejoice? Was there a class to teach that I didn't do? A leadership position that was available and where I was needed, and I sat back on my rear end and did nothing. People talk about not leaving things undone in life. Let me tell you what, folks. If we leave the things of God undone, our lives have been squandered. To him who knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, to him it is sin. Because his life is short. His life is short. And because life is short, folks, it's time to get busy. We've talked about the need to serve God this morning, but talking is over. It's time to quit talking and get busy. You know, we can talk till we're blue in the face about all we're gonna do. It's fine to make those plans. Go to the anti-sluggard. You know, he gets things ready and so forth for the winter. He's prepared. Oh, there's time and a place to prepare and to talk and to make plans. But we can't spend all our time doing that. Brothers and sisters, it's time for this church to get busy. It's time to quit sitting around. I know we've got COVID and things are different. And folks, I've never been in ministry like this, and sometimes I don't know what to do. I don't have the answers because of COVID. But I know this, we need to be serving God. I know that He needs to be first. I know I need to center my life around Him. Those things don't change. And it's time for you to serve every way you can. To get busy in the vineyard of God. Are you busy? Is God really the center of your world, of your universe? Is it the case that you need to come this morning? Take self off throne and put God on the throne instead. To bow down before Him and serve Him with every single thing you have, you are, and you can give. If you need to come this morning, you need to come right now. We stand and sing.